Hello and welcome to the Lead Today, Shape Tomorrow conference. This is the Sustainability in Fashion panel. We will talk today about dressing to save the planet. So the clothing industry is a major player when it comes to environmental pollution and climate change while enforcing capitalism. So let's explore business models that shaped around sustainable solutions in the fashion industry and the strategies to implement more ecological awareness on a personal level. Let's bear in mind that we only have 35 minutes. So obviously we will not be able to give you all the answers here because this is a multi-layered topic and we need to approach it in a way that we make sure that this is leaving the niche role and reaching a wider audience. My name is Sabinna Rachimova. I'm the founder of the sustainable fashion and lifestyle brand Sabinna. I'm also a lecturer at the University of Arts London, and I work as a consultant with a focus on sustainable business models. It's a pleasure to be your host today, but it's even a bigger pleasure to have three fantastic guests here. So we have three incredible guests joining us. It's Iris, Jenah, and Jade. They all bring a variety of experience and expertise within the field of sustainability in fashion and will share their knowledge with us today. Before we jump to the question, I will ask my lovely guests to introduce themselves. Iris, let's start maybe with you.
Thank you, Sabinna, for the introduction, and very happy to be actually in this topic. And as Lisa said, very important because each and every one of us wears clothes at some point. And I was born and raised in Milan, but I've been living in the Netherlands for now 4 years, and I started my career in this very field. So working innovation first at Nike, so corporate, and actually building a startup within a multinational, which is PVH. Then there, as a consumer, I realized how problematic the problem it is to actually go about and be part of this sustainable movement that is happening in the fashion industry. And so that's the reason why I started and I built my own startup, Renoon, which is part of the second cohort of female founders as well. We just closed our first pre-seed round with industry leaders like the ex-CIO of Gucci, ex-CTO of Yves Saint Laurent, and some people from Spotify as well. And we actually just launched our first official product just this week.
Incredible, absolutely perfect timing. Thank you. Jenah, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Sabinna, and a pleasure to be here as well. Congrats, Iris, on the launch of Renoon. So my name is Jenah. I'm French originally, based in Berlin currently, and I started my career working in Bangladesh, Myanmar, and Pakistan. Coming back to Europe, I actually worked in leather first. I co-founded the brand Buckle and Seam, which is a social business working closely and transparently with Pakistan and supporting girls' education there. But after seeing the tanneries with my own eyes and what it means to work with animal skin, I decided very early on that I would need to step away from this and to build a vegan line. And so that's what I did with Jenah St. So it's a vegan handbag brand for women, all produced in Europe. And so working on becoming 100% plant-based and circular. So we've already accomplished a lot, but there is even more coming in the next weeks. So we're very excited about it, and thank you.
Fantastic. I hope we will get to hear a bit more in our session. And Jade.
Yes, what a treat to be spending a Friday afternoon with so many inspirational women. So super excited to be here. So my name is Jade. I have also been researching and consulting in sustainability for nearly 10 years now. And fashion became also a big focus just because it's very close and personal to many people. And I think there's so much to do knowing, that, for example, it takes 10% of the CO2 footprint as an industry worldwide. So there's a lot of work to do. That's also why I decided to join Zalando. So a fashion platform who wants to be a sustainable fashion platform with a net positive impact on people and the planet. And I actually helped build the team around that 5 years ago and have now progressed into the re-commerce side of things. And that's almost like a startup within the bigger Zalando business. And we're really trialing to mainstream pre-owned in order to extend the life of fashion and make sure that more people also take this model seriously and find a new outfit in a way that saves a lot of resources that we need to do. So I'm super excited to brainstorm ideas with you guys and talk more about sustainability in fashion.
Fantastic. So the word sustainability was mentioned a couple of times. I did it several times. Each of you did it a few times. But first things first, how do you actually define sustainability, especially in fashion? And what does it mean to you? Maybe let's start with Jenna here, because you mentioned that you transitioned actually from working in leather, but then moving towards other solution with vegan options.
Yes. So I think for us, and I think for a lot of people in the industry now, sustainability means the creation of durable and desirable pieces by using a regenerative and circular system, whereby basically, ideally, what is taken from nature eventually goes back to nature. And in the meantime, that this piece that has been created has served its purpose for the longest time possible, right? Which means that it has been probably repaired, which means that it has entered several consumption cycles in between. So for instance, with Jenah St, that's what we're doing with the circular bag program. And this is also the reason why we're moving to a plant-based vegan raw material. It's also making sure that the ecosystem of people, of fauna and flora that are in direct contact with the supply chain, from the raw material extraction, production, and manufacturing, is not harmed in the process, but rather positively impacted. That's how I would define sustainability and how we understand it as Jenah St.
Great. Iris, what would you say? You just mentioned that you launched a platform that is all about connecting people to each other, the brands to the customers, in order to bring sustainability message across. What does sustainability mean to you?
Yeah, so probably I can answer this question also of what sustainability we're bringing across as a message to through Renoon. So at Renoon, we see sustainability bucketed in 4+1 main areas. The 4 areas, which are environmental protection, human well-being, animal ethics, and innovation and technology. And then we have the 5th one, which is more vertical, and it integrates a bit more into the other ones, which is modern consumption. So accessing actually fashion in new ways, which could be secondhand, it could be pre-owned, reworked kind of pieces. But also rental and actually new models that make fashion slow down. So we really see it, and within these different areas, the products themselves or the brands themselves can have a different impact that can go and solve the tiny bits of the problems that actually create this puzzle to create a sustainable future.
Great. So it is about creating frameworks that would then bring solutions and better business concepts and models. But Jade, how is it for Zalando? Obviously, this is a company that's been around for longer. It's very big, and one would think it's not as easy to shift towards, new approaches and change things. How do you define sustainability at Zalando?
Yes, you're totally right, Sabinna. So we work with over 2,000 brands, and of course, there's many different understandings of sustainability there, and we're trying to come to at least a minimum understanding that we can also then convey to the customer, because we think transparency is key here. So first of all, I think if you challenge me to say what sustainable fashion is, it's really future-proof, fashion that brings joy to future generations and not more costs and burden, right? So that's kind of the overarching title. And then I think Iris and Jenna have already kind of pointed out the different areas where you can then go into, and that's what we try to do at Zalando as well. So since we offer new and pre-owned fashion, for the new fashion, we try to show customers what kind of materials it's made out of, what maybe materials are that are less resource intensive, that maybe have a certificate that also shows this. That are maybe innovative materials like pineapple leather, etc. So there's many different things that could make a new item more sustainable, and that's what we try to convey. And we have a set of criteria worked out with many different industry collaborations, like the Sustainable Apparel Coalition, and that's why we try to kind of define sustainability also for brands who look for orientation of what they should produce next. And we've actually set quite a high bar to also kind of push the industry a bit and incentivize them. So our goal is by 2023 to have really 20% of everything we sell on the platform to tick at least one of these boxes, right? So if you look at the fashion industry right now, we estimate only 1% of all the items to tick this box. So to have the 20% there is, you know, already a big step. Of course, it's not enough. And that's where we also look to the other use phase. So one thing is buying fashion, and then the other thing is how you use it, right? So empowering customers to make sure it's washed in a way that lasts long, and all these things, care and repair is a great thing that we try to support. And then also end of life, or at least giving it a second life, which is our trade-in feature that we offer, where customers can, you know, trade in their items so we can give them a new life, resell them, etc. So this is how we look at the whole life cycle of fashion and try to make it more sustainable at every point.
Fantastic. Obviously, we can't talk about setting goals and looking forward without looking back at the past 12 months. So how has actually the pandemic impacted you as professionals, as business owners? Have you had to adapt your operations and your strategies? Maybe let's start with Iris here, because you just launched something new, and that's a scary thought for a lot of people to start from scratch in such an uncertain time.
Yeah, I have to say that actually when we founded the company, the pandemic started just a month later, a couple of weeks later, to be honest. So we haven't had really a pre and post pandemic for our business. What we've seen is a real increase of interest, a general interest of what we're doing. From when we were pitching an idea before even the founding of the company, towards then during the pandemic. So I have to say that in that sense, the interest of people and the urgency of this topic has increased. We can definitely feel that. Definitely, I think the fashion industry has been impacted by this pandemic. Of course, we have less places to be, less dresses to need for special occasions. So I think, so definitely that has been impacted. But also we have had the possibility to grab the attention of people that otherwise we wouldn't have had. This is really our perspective in this sense. And so, yeah, we really see a very different change in people's mindset. They're actively more looking towards solutions like Renoon that can really help and guide them in their journey. And now they have the time to do so, because probably also this is the problem, right? When you're so used to, as a consumer, to go to the same shops and do the same things. And then now people have had more time to think about what to do and also reevaluate their choices.
Anything you would like to add to that? Jenna, Jade, feel free.
Yeah, I think this is great, Iris, that you're turning kind of a crisis into an opportunity. And it makes me remember what a mentor once said to me, and I think it also applies to personal situations, where she challenged me to think, okay, what if this really bad thing that has happened is actually the best thing that ever happened to you? Yeah. And how would that look like? So I really echo what you said. And I think for my team, of course, the personal toll has been tough, of course. If you look on the business side, there's a lot of opportunities. We did a customer research where more than 35% of the respondents told us that they want to be more sustainable, buy more sustainable, and really care more about that now because of this pandemic somehow has made them think. So I think this is a great opportunity. And then, of course, for pre-owned, it was also somehow that many people had time to clean out their closets, and we had a lot of more trade-ins coming in. So this was, of course, something we had to also then deal with this sudden influx, but of course, super encouraging trend there.
Yeah, and to also just jump on this, I think there's been a general understanding that an acceptation of the fact that the rhythm was slowing down, and for us at Jenah St, it also gave us the time to think, to restructure, to reprioritize, and to act on what matters most, which is for us our reducing our impact on the environment through our journey, and moving really way faster towards a plant-based collection, which would not necessarily have been possible that fast if we were still taken into the daily fast-paced that was still going on a few months back. I also feel that on the communication level with the customers and the followers of the brand, because these times have been so challenging for everyone, I feel that customers expect that you talk more directly and more personally to them, kind of cutting the crap kind of thing. And so I feel that the communication and the interactions are becoming more personal, and people want this connection and this direct connection with you, which is great, because you can be way more straightforward.
Jan, this is actually perfect, because you already took away my next question, which would have been how to talk to customers today and how to reach them with the sustainability message you have. And because you answered that question, I can skip that and take one of the questions from the audience, because I see there are a lot. And there is one which is quite intriguing and interesting. So someone asked, what happens if the majority of population moves to sustainable products? Won't it be still unhealthy for the planet, as demand cannot be met? And is buying sustainable products really an answer to save the planet? I would throw in, is not buying sustainable products the answer, but I'll probably move that question first to Jade. Again, working with such a big machinery as Zalando, what do you think will happen if everyone switches to sustainable products? And is this the solution?
So there again, we come back to the definition question, right? So I think if you exchange a new item with a pre-owned item, for example, you already save a lot of resources that would have been needed to make the new item. So yes, this would be a massive answer to move to a more circular fashion system, and that would be a better world. Of course, you can buy 10 pre-owned items every day, and that then obviously doesn't seem to be the better solution, right? Because you're still needing a lot of resources in the end. So I think it's always a combination. Sustainability is never like an easy black and white answer. So it's always a holistic concept where you have to think, okay, my closet is something like filled with items that I definitely wear a lot. There's some really terrible statistics that, 1/4 of our fashion pieces that we never wear, or something like this, or only 4 times. So to really think and be conscious about your fashion consumption, I think is super important. That I think is always going to be a space for new items, right? Especially if you look at underwear and socks, etc., these kind of things. But yeah, do consider maybe if you buy a new pair of jeans, maybe it can be pre-owned or something repaired, or hand-me-down from your sister, whatever. So I think there's many ways where you can also think about this, and that would mean a more sustainable fashion system. I'm convinced of that.
Fantastic. Thank you. Iris, Jenna, anything you would like to add? What happens if everyone buys sustainable, and will this actually save the planet?
Yeah, I would highlight what also Jade said about looking at this holistically, because it's not only about sustainability, it's not about how the product is made, and so like the sustainability of the product that in a linear way, but thinking about it in a circular way. So for example, so that's also the reason why we've built Renoon, because we realized there's great brands like Jenah doing amazing things, and then there's amazing platforms already also like Zalando that are shifting towards that. But then there's also like new ways to consume fashion, and how can we bring this together in a way that can also help circulate even more like the products. So it's not only about, so it's of course we need to start, the input needs to start being the good input, so the linear way, but then we need to start off buying pre-owned. And for example, on Renoon already in December, we started testing with rent, and actually now that we went live, we also have some rental platforms as well. So that makes the case for some items, for example, that we need to use for special occasions. And so there is this new also business models that are coming in that can help us reuse the products, share them among each other, and keep them for a longer period of time, not necessarily on our closet, but in our economy and within ourselves.
Yeah, and I also feel that, if we're speaking about purchasing sustainability, it comes from like the brands, but also comes from the customer. So if we understand sustainability as durability of the piece that I purchase, of quality over quantity, and if it is something that the customer is ready to go towards in terms of their purchasing behavior as well, they're going to purchase 100% sustainable. and their behavior is going to be sustainable as well then, right? It means that they're going to buy less, but they're going to buy pieces that last longer. And eventually, if they purchase items that are within this circular loop that I was mentioning earlier, that Iris, you just mentioned, which means that the materials go back to nature, it cannot be anything but positive.
Yeah, fantastic. I like that you all touched upon different things and also mentioning the responsibilities. It's always a huge question, who has the biggest responsibility, the brands or the customers? From my side, I would like to add that obviously it's a fact that fashion will never be 100% sustainable, no matter how much we talk about it and how much we wish for it, because it's still producing goods that we don't necessarily need, because there's enough clothes on the planet already. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't look for better solutions, especially for business concepts, as what Iris mentioned, renting, looking at sharing economy, looking at circular economy and approaching that. So this is definitely something to bear in mind. And plus, on top, I will also throw in that sustainable fashion has a lot to do with privilege. So if you have the privilege to consume more sustainable and consciously, you definitely should. And we should be aware of the fact that not everyone has the same kind of like rules applying to them. I would love to talk a bit more about that, because this is obviously where the topic is getting more and more interesting, but the time is tight. So I'll jump to the next question, which is equally interesting. So the pandemic has exposed long-standing problems in the fashion industry, such as how workers are treated, or in this time not being paid at all for the work that they do. The problem with seasonal fashion, how Fashion Week kind of lost its meaning and couldn't take place properly. So this is just to name a few. For you personally, what was one biggest learning from the past 12 months? And I don't mind whoever wants to take that first and share their one big learning.
I'm happy to start. So I just came back from Pakistan, where I was visiting the women empowerment organization that Jenah St supports. The women there make handmade keychains that we gift with each order to raise awareness around the cause. And during the pandemic, the NGO that structures this had to close for a few weeks. And the women couldn't work, and they were provided with food rations instead in order to survive while the NGO was closed due to sanitary regulations. And they didn't have a choice. I think that we here speaking and you guys listening, we all have the privilege of choice. Of course, it's been tough on all of us, but we still are able to navigate through, to find solutions, to find ways to make it work. And these women, most of the workers in countries such as Bangladesh, Pakistan, or India, they don't have that choice. And so I was just thinking of this privilege of choice, what do we do with it? With our actions, with our business operations, do we perpetuate and feed this disparity? Or are we doing everything in our power to lift each other up? And so what I came to realize is that what is financial growth, what is profit, if it's built on pain and struggle in whatever form, it's just meaningless and harmful. And so I really think that we need to rebuild a more virtuous economy with new KPIs intrinsically integrated into the usual business KPIs that we measure, such as compliance with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals to measure our business performance. So that was one of my biggest realizations during the pandemic.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I would also say it is about being in this together, right? So especially the fashion industry, but all our lives are super connected and globalized, and that our actions here have then an effect down the supply chain, and this is something that we have to take really seriously. And partnership is the second part of that, right? So we made sure that with the brands that we work with, that we didn't cancel orders, but that we made sure we could shift somehow and make sure it doesn't just shift the problem downstream, right? And the other part was also how we try to use the digital platform that we had, and that obviously was fortunate to still be able to open during this time when lots of shops had to close. So what we did is kind of connect the inventory of local shops to our digital platform, so they could keep basically selling there as well. So that's our connected retail program, and we also then said, okay, we won't take commission for this time, whatever. So this is just a way of trying to live this partnership and collaboration and say, okay, this is just a bad time for some of us, but we need to all kind of hang in there together in order to get through it.
Fantastic. And Iris?
I would just add, because I agree with, and I like both of the statements, it's the adaptability of us as also like humans, and just in general as societies, because that's also like what the pandemic has shown, that some people, and that I also know within the fashion industry, like being so connected with it, they were really wondering, do we still need a fashion show? Is that still something that makes sense? So it's I think biggest learnings from it were also really seeing how with new things coming in, how we can adapt as well and do things in a different way. It was probably prompted by this hard stop that we had, but at the same time, it also showed how we can actually adapt and do things differently, especially when it comes to sustainability. So it's just like our continuous way that we're always used to, and we always like want to do things in that way, but we can actually do change and adapt for new times.
That is very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing. Obviously, I have so many more questions on my list, but I also know that the audience has questions. So I will take another one from the audience. So someone is asking, would a more data-driven approach to clothing design and development make the industry more sustainable? So for example, reducing the overproduction. How much data is currently used in the process? I think it's a fantastic question. I don't know who of you, because obviously you all have different perspectives on that. So whoever wants to jump and share from their perspective, please go ahead.
Yeah, I can tap into that because with Renoon, something that we also, when we built the company, we realized how little data in some parts the industry has. And I think the fashion industry has been moving towards a more data-driven direction for years. And especially, I'm also curious to know what Jade says, because of course Zalando is a platform that has been born, digital, but also coming from other more traditional, actually companies that do the design, that do that part of the structuring of the products. And I think there's a difference also between the type of brands that are out there. So when it comes to luxury versus premium and fast fashion, but also what we've seen is that, like also through Renoon, in just in the prototype phase, we've processed more than 1 million products, and we've seen how this data-driven approach also when it comes to sustainability and tackling things is also something that is going to be very, very important, and where we're actually going to position, and we're positioning ourselves in. But then especially when it comes to understanding indeed the production methods, another way that some businesses are tackling it also is the made to order way. So in a way that you can indeed get the orders in from the consumers first and then go and do your production. So we've seen this approach also being done by fashion brands.
Fantastic. Yeah, Jade, you would like to? Oh, okay, yeah. I'll give you 30 seconds each. 30 seconds each, because I already have a warning that we don't have that much time. 30 seconds each. Go ahead.
Okay, I just because you were mentioning, Iris, what brands are doing on the design part. So with Jenah St, we have what we call the community lab, where basically our followers are able to fill up surveys, like micro surveys that we send, in order to basically interrogate them on the designs that we want to show before we produce them, so that we can produce less but better. And our new collection was built and was created with the help of the community lab followers, and will come out as a pre-launch model like you described, Iris. That's what we're doing on our side.
Yeah, I think what's been covered very well is kind of the design data and data on trends, right? So I think fashion industry is really good at that already. What we need more data on is traceability down the supply chain. So many brands don't know all the steps of where actually the items are from, and then also makes it harder to enforce standards across, right? So human rights standards, environmental standards. So we're also an initiative there with the HIG index and the SAC to try to collect all that data and make all the different steps transparent. The other part is, of course, in the use phase, right? So we often don't know what happens when customers own their items already, but we want to make sure they last longer. And there we just started a pilot with Fashion for Good, which is an accelerator for innovation in fashion and circular fashion from Berlin, a startup. And basically it's a QR code in the label of the items we sell in our redesign collection. And then customers can basically use that to first understand what is the item made of, what can I do to make sure it keeps longer. But then we can also, of course, interact with the customers and understand better how they use this item, how long they keep it. And then, of course, we also encourage them to trade it into our pre-owned category in the end. So hopefully trying to get that loop. So we need more data in all of those use phases is my overarching point.
Amazing. Thank you very much. It is indeed a very intriguing section of fashion industry overall, but especially moving towards a more sustainable future. Speaking about the future, we do have 1 minute left. So I would like you all to share something that excites you about the future of the fashion industry. How will sustainable fashion evolve? A little statement from each of you, a short one. Go ahead.
So I'm personally very excited about the growing reflection around regenerative economy in general. For example, the Zebra startup movement, which promotes slower and longer sustainable growth, as opposed to the unicorn narrative, which was the ultimate manifestation of success for startups in the past decades. And more specifically, in the case of Jenah St, the innovations in the field of vegan plant-based materials, which we'll be working with in the new collections to come, is wonderful. It's science fiction. It's amazing.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's going to be a lot of innovation technology coming. That's super exciting. I think brands are much more realizing the commitment and want to do more here. And also, of course, customers are demanding more on sustainability. And the one stat that I want to share that makes me super positive is customers that have bought a pre-owned item from a certain brand that then lasts long, like the quality is very good. They continue to buy that brand and basically scale their wardrobe in that sense that it is more circular or at least lasts longer. So that I think is a super encouraging trend, and we'll see more of that hopefully in the future.
Yeah, and what I'm really excited about is the fact that consumers as well indeed are getting into this, and in sort of like 2021, we now know the price tag of everything, and we're starting to now also understand the value also of the things that we buy.
Fantastic. Jade, Iris, Jenah, thank you so much for your time and for all your insights. And thank you very much, everyone, to join us today.